Welcome to MBA Mental Boost. This is your coach, Dr. Rosie, and today we are diving into something that separates the good athletes from the elite ones, and that's consistency. So I'm sure that you've heard consistency is key, but what does it actually mean? What does consistency actually look like for you? That's what we're going to be diving into. And the idea for this episode came up because I was talking with a client a couple of days ago who's not happy with the minutes that he's getting right now. And it's very easy to let the brain go to wasting energy on other people's thoughts. I mean, external validation is a whole other episode in its own right. By the way, you 100% generate that confidence. You don't need anyone external to gift you the confidence, but that is for another episode. But where I wanted to take his brain was thinking about what he can control. And the phrase that we landed on together is, I am preparing like the player that they can't ignore. And that landed so well because what he's now focusing on is putting his energy, focus, attention into the preparation. So that's 100% in your control. And where does that preparation stem from? It stems from staying consistent. So it also links to having a motivation, a reason why you're wanting to stay consistent in the first place. So then if you go off track, you can very easily just course correct and get yourself back onto the route where you're heading, because you know where you're heading and you know why you're wanting to stay consistent and show up day in, day out, no matter what. Now, taking a step back, I just want to demystify motivation because I think it's overrated. So often people talk about, generating motivation, needing to create motivation. When the motivation's there, then I'm consistent. But actually, if we strip it back, motivation comes and goes. It's something that can fluctuate. But consistency is very different, because consistency is, I like to think of it, it's more of a commitment. So it's about showing up day in, day out, consistently, even when you don't feel like it. I see memes popping around all the time. Things like, if you're feeling tired, do it tired. Now, I'm not wanting to go down the route of, missing out on sleep and rest and burning out. Definitely not what I'm saying. But I think sometimes we focus so much on the need for motivation, and when it's not there, we can kind of sack it off. Whereas I want us to be able to overcome those excuses, overcome that voice in our head, the doubt, the limiting belief, whatever it is that's stopping us from taking action. And if you can start focusing on consistency, being committed to going all in on yourself, because ultimately that's what you're doing. You are committing to yourself and only yourself. And as I say that might feel really uncomfortable to hear, but it isn't in a kind of egotistical, not giving a shit about anybody else but me. Is actually reframing it the other way, that if you go all in on yourself, you stay consistent, you stay committed to yourself, you show up for yourself day in, day out, what's going to happen is that you're equally going to show up as a much better player, teammate, partner, parent, whatever relationships you have. That has to stem from yourself first. So you have to be able to have that commitment to overcome the excuses that creep in that maybe stop us from staying consistent. So think of consistency like building a brick wall. I'm not a bricklayer, but you don't lay all the bricks at once. you lay one brick at a time in its place. What do? Do you like smooth over the plaster of cement? Cement. It must be cement. I did say that I'm not a bricklayer. But you know, that analogy, like it's one brick at a time and you build it up and you keep building and you build on each brick. And now you've got the foundations. And now let's say we're building a wall. That wall is getting stronger and stronger, but one brick at a time. And I like to think of that when we think of consistency, because we can get a bit overwhelmed. You know, if you have particular goals, dreams, aspirations, sometimes that can be amazing. And this kind of big vision thinking can like fuel us to go after our dreams, to take inspired action, to achieve more than, you know, our wildest imagination. But some days that's going to cripple you. And I'm speaking from experience. Some days that big vision, the big dream is just going to feel so unmanageable and our brain like can't even comprehend it. And therefore, if you focus on one brick, you know, it's process over outcome thinking. You think about one brick at a time. What can I do today? Bring it down to the micro. And then remembering that consistency beats intensity. It's not about going, you know, 100% one day and burning out. It's about consistently hitting, let's say 80 to 90% every day. Now I'm throwing around numbers. So I want you to think about what could that look like? What would that like 80% be for me? And if you can show up giving that every single day, you're going to see it compound. Again, I'm speaking from experience, from myself, but from my clients. So I want you to start small and start to stack wins. So think of one, let's just go to habits. One habit you can commit to doing daily. Something small, maybe something that's like 10 minutes. It might be like writing in a journal. It might be breath work. It might be shooting free throws. But remembering that consistency isn't about perfection. It's about progress. That one brick at a time. So don't say things like, I'm going to commit to meditate every single day for 30 days. I mean, that's a great goal. But again, our brain might find the 30 days, oh my God, like that's too much. Or we might miss a day, forgetting that 80% is fine. But miss a day and then it's like, wow, that's it. I might as well give up because I haven't got my 30-day streak. Whereas if you commit to doing this one thing, let's say for 10 minutes, you're going to do it daily, but you're going to let your mind just focus on one day at a time. Now, all of a sudden, that's simple. That feels so much more manageable. And then you start to think about creating systems over goals. So what systems can you put in place? Where can you habit stack to just make things super simple? You know, maybe it's like when you wake up in the morning, you go for your morning wee, and then you meditate. And you do that instead of scrolling on social media. That would be an amazing way to start your day. Something that you're going to do every day anyway, and then use that as a trigger to then go and meditate. And then remembering that progress fuels momentum. Progress is going to, like when you start to see the compounding effects, it's going to keep you going. So like tracking your habits, like give yourself that visual proof that you're building consistency. There are loads of apps out there to track your habits, but like give yourself that feedback loop to see that, yeah, you know what? Like I'm achieving stuff. Like I'm really proud of myself because I stayed consistent. And that day that I missed, and you know what? The next day I got back, I'm proud of that too. 80%. So I want to set you a challenge. For the next 7 days, I want you to pick just one habit. You know, we were talking earlier about that one habit, maybe 10 minutes a day. Start small and just commit. So maybe it's like 10 minutes of visualization or 10 minutes of writing in a journal, or like I said, shooting free throws. No matter how you feel, you're going to show up. But you're going to focus on one day mentality. That confidence comes from preparation. Now, consistency isn't sexy. Well, I find it sexy. I might be weird. But consistency on the whole isn't, because it's the stuff that you're doing away from everyone, away from the lights and the noise. But you know what? It's going to show up at the times when you need it. Clients recently have had like real clutch moments and they've turned the game around. Like, this has happened not because in the moment they suddenly like knew what they needed to do or they had a light bulb moment. Nope. That light bulb moment happened days before or weeks before in a session with me. And they'd already visualized on it. They'd already stayed consistent with their mental reps, that when push came to shove and they got to that wire, like, they were good. They were in the zone. They were performing at their peak. Their body and their brain knew exactly what to do in that moment. Like, they were prepared for this. So remembering that consistency is the secret to greatness. Start small, focus on the process, and build momentum every day. If this episode hit home for you, I would love you to share it with a teammate or someone that you think would find this useful. Leave a review and also connect with me on Instagram at Dr Rosie Mead. I'd love to know what your consistency challenge is and how you're finding it. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of MBA Mental Boost, the secret weapon to supercharging your performance on the court. If you found today's episode useful, don't forget to subscribe and share. You can connect with me over on any social platform. You can find me at Dr Rosie Mead. Until next time, go out there and dominate using the power of your mind. This is Dr Rosie, signing off.